Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Brucelson. We're back for another indie horror spotlight. Tonight, we have a returning guest. He's a director, and look, his movie is out right now. It's been killing it, and it's going to be spreading all throughout the country. And it's called Sherlock Holmes, MARE of the Night. I have with us CJ Goodwyn. CJ, welcome back to the Horror Room.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on again, Travis. I appreciate it.
It's a pleasure, man. So tell us. So for people who haven't seen, our previous interviews, tell them a little bit about your movie.
Sure. So Sherlock Holmes, MARE of the Night. It's my fourth featured film, and basically what I did, I made the character a real person. So basically, kind of like what does a true hero go through in real life. So whether you're a cop or someone in the army, things of that nature, they see a lot of, rough stuff on a weekly basis. So no different with the Sherlock character. So with Sherlock Holmes, he was always dealing with drugs and alcohol, and just super ADD issues on his own personal level. And then on a weekly basis, he's dealing with people that have been just raped or killed and just horrific events. What does that do to a person's psyche for 50 years? Not only to that character, but the people around him, like the Watsons and Lestrades and those type of characters. So that's really what the film is. We start the film off where he's basically 65 years old and he's pretty messed up. He's in a dark place. He's helped and saved a lot of people in his life, but we find him pretty broken. And that's kind of how we start the film. And then someone shows up on his doorstep needing help. And we kind of start off on a journey of trying to get him back to where he was 20 years ago, which if you want to find out if that happens, you come check out the movie.
Definitely check it out. And I said it, in our previous interview, I love which we don't see a lot of it. I love to see, our heroes. What do they look like and how do they act when they're older? I would love to see like a Batman when he's 60 or 70 years old, like all those traumatic events, and it must take a toll.
100%. 100%, man. I think that was the whole mindset with this story. Les Best plays Sherlock, and he's a great actor, man. He's done a lot of work over his time, and I've worked with him on 4 projects, and I really wanted to give Les an opportunity to showcase his skill set, basically. He's so talented. I'm like, I'm going to work really hard on the script to try to break you, and which is really hard. But I think he would say that I achieved that goal. There's a lot of just dark moments and crying and tears and being scared and, getting cleaned up, right? Coming off of drug abuse, what that looks like. But not only what that looks like for Sherlock, but what does that look like for the person trying to take care of Sherlock? I think sometimes we don't see the other side of it. And I think the other side, the person, the caregiver, is just as hard for that person to get someone clean and be there for them and go through all that suffering. And that's really what the film is, man. And Les did a great job, as Sherlock. I think there's been a lot of reviews out already, just love letters to Hollywood, and, Les just deserves an Oscar, like all these things. And he's super humble, so I don't know if he'd say that about himself, but he did an awesome job. I'm really happy for Les.
And listen, it must be fucking awesome as a filmmaker. I mean, to not only have your movie out on streaming services or DVD, but to have it on the big screen, how movies are meant to be watched. What is that like to see, something you've been working so hard on up on the big screen in front of a natural audience, and they're enjoying it?
100%. That's 13-year journey for me, man, to kind of get to that point. And this isn't, four-walling. These are theaters that want the film, and so they're paying me. I'm not paying them anything. I'm not renting out a theater, which anyone can do. This is like the real deal, where they're paying me to put the movie out onto the movie theaters, which is really cool. Here in San Antonio, we won the box office at city-based cinemas. We only had 6 showtimes through the weekend, but we still beat out like Mel Gibson's latest, like that Flight Risk movie, I think.
Yeah.
And there's some other films that came out that weekend, but that was cool. Then Santikos Theater, which is a big chain here in San Antonio, at least, you have like 10 or 12 theaters. Well, we were in 2 of those, but we were only supposed to be in for 3 days, but it did really well. We happened to be in there for 2 weeks. So we had a 2-week run with these big Hollywood type films, and we're getting anywhere from 20 or 30 people a night up to 60 or 70 people a night on the weekends coming to watch our Sherlock film. And we don't know who these people are, right? It's strangers. That's what you want. It's not family and friends. It's just people that heard about the film, or they went to the theater to check out a movie and they see a Sherlock poster, like, oh, this is interesting. Let's try a Sherlock movie. And then there you go. And so it's been really cool. We've got to meet a lot of these strangers, basically, and ask them what they thought. And up to this point, we've had a lot of great feedback. A lot of people really have enjoyed the movie. They enjoyed that we didn't let up on the darkness. That this isn't Robert Downey Jr.'s Sherlock. This is we're telling how it really is. The world's a brutal place, and if you're a true hero and you see some really dark things in your life, this is kind of what happens to you. And we didn't let off the gas, and we got a lot of praise for that. We also got some people that walked out because it was too much. They couldn't handle it. People that do this for a living, it was hitting them too hard. It's kind of like when Saving Private Ryan came out, and people that were a part of that war watched the film and they were crying and walking out. They couldn't handle it because it's just bringing them back to those moments. So we had some of that with this film, and I know we'll have more of that as it continues to tour. And obviously, I don't want people to feel pain or hurt, but I think when you are an artist, you're trying to get to where it feels real as much as you can. And so when people watch it, it does take them to those places. So, we put warnings up, films are rated, it's dark, psychological, it's not for everyone. And we've definitely had some people walk out because of that. Not because the film was bad, just because they couldn't handle the material. So I'm happy for that. That just means that we didn't let off the gas and we took it where it should have gone for this Sherlock character.
Now, so for the showings, did you hide in the audience and like do like an undercover type thing, or did you announce, "Hey, I'm the filmmaker of this movie"?
Yeah, so I did both. So I showed up at one of the screenings. Wasn't really announced. You just kind of show up and you see that there's like 30 people in the audience. And before the movie even started, I would just walk in and like, "Hi, how's it going? Thanks for coming to the film today." And they're like, "Who are you?" I'm like, "So I'm actually the filmmaker of this movie. I live here in this city. So I thought I'd just come out and thank the audience, you guys, for being here. And, after the show's over, I love to hear what you think." And I would just go and chill in the lobby for a few hours, and they would come out and let me know what they thought. So that was really cool. But then sometimes, I wouldn't say who I was. I would just sit there and kind of watch and see if they react to any of the horror moments or just the emotional moments and see what they think. It's fun. It's also terrifying if you're the filmmaker, because you're sitting there and you're like, obviously you hope people like your work, but it was interesting, man. It was fun to watch. A lot of gaffes. Some people, doing the whole like, I'm scared moment. People wiping away tears. And so when you see that happening, you did your job. The script was good, the actors did their job, we told a great story, and it's affecting them emotionally. And that's what you want, whatever you make. Whether you're trying to scare someone or make someone laugh, like, it's got to hit. It's no different with comedians, right, on stage. Like, you don't want, like, crickets out there. You want people to laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's no different. And I think we did a pretty good job. We're above 90% right now on Rotten Tomatoes. And on IMDb, and of course that's really all audience scores, but that's what I care about. I care about what the audience thinks, and up to this point, man, we've been doing well, and as I said, we're touring with the film, so we'll see how the rest of the world thinks of the movie as we continue to go.
Now, when you were sitting there, was there like one reaction in particular that you were like, "Oh my goodness, I just knocked a home run"?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of reveal moments in the movie, um, where you build it up to a certain point where you're supposed to reveal it, and then they're supposed to understand, like, oh, it's this person, or this is what happened. And there's a few moments like that in the film. So I'm always watching to see if the audience sort of like gets it. Like, did they understand leading up to this point, and did they figure it out when I wanted them to figure it out? So I'm always watching for those type of moments. But I'm also watching really on the emotional moments. Is it really hitting them? Are we seeing people wiping away tears and things like that? Because if they are, then we did our job. Like, it's really hitting them. Like, and I don't know what they're thinking about, but something in their life that was tough has brought them back to this moment watching this film, and that's what you want. You want people to feel pain. You want people to laugh. You want people to be scared. Whatever. So those are probably the moments I enjoyed the most. The horror moments. Everyone's scared of something. Some people, I would say this movie is not very scary at all, and I'm kind of one of those people. I think it's more of just a psychological and very suspenseful. There's a lot of moments where you think something might happen and jump out, and it doesn't really happen, because it's just more just a psychological, mind, fest basically.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So as a filmmaker, is any reaction a good reaction? Like, if you were like, "Oh my goodness, I meant for this part of the movie to be deep and powerful," and you hear the audience laughing, is that also a good thing?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, if you wrote it in a way and you have your actors and you want everybody to be crying in this moment and they're laughing, yeah, I think you missed on that mark, and that happens, right? Especially a lot of, like, especially in indie films. I think a lot of times you're trying to create a really nice drama and an emotional moment, and I've had people actually say that to me. Like, I talk to the actors or crew afterwards, and I'm like a guest. Like, hey man, great film, congratulations. And they're like, yeah, but everybody was kind of laughing at this moment. I'm like, well, they're just friends and family. Like, I try to be nice, but obviously they missed. And we kind of said it already. It's like comedians on stage. Sometimes you miss. So yeah, man, that's can be nerve wracking because you spend 3 years of your life making this film, and in those moments, you want people to feel what you're trying to tell. So yeah, man, if they're laughing while the actors are up there crying, that's not good. That's not good.
Because I watched an interview. It was a documentary interview of the director who made the Birdemic movie, which has been a cult classic, horror comedy. But he did not mean it to be a horror comedy. He meant it to be this powerful movie about environment, climate control, and he did a screening in a theater, and everybody was like laughing, and they were like, "Oh my god, this is the funniest movie ever." But he meant it to be a serious movie, but it turned into a comedy instead of this serious horror film.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know how he feels about that.
Like, he was brutal, but he made millions off of it. So I mean, at least he can wipe away with the money.
There you go. I think if people are laughing watching this film, that's not good, because they're even like really messed up in the head and crazy, or we didn't do our job very well. But every time I've watched it with an audience, it's pretty much dead quiet. Like, it's just a very serious film, and you have to pay attention. It's not like a Transformers movie where you can kind of go use the restroom and come back. Like, you really have to pay attention. There's a lot of twists and turns and connecting the dots as you go, and if you miss something, it might throw everything off. And so every time I've watched it with an audience, it's been dead quiet, which is great. That means they're paying attention. You don't see the cell phones coming on, like they're into it, and that's great. So
I mean, with your movie doing as well as doing, And so many indie horror movies are doing great. I mean, in the box office and, just in general. How come Hollywood has not caught on and realized, oh my goodness, the indie horror scene is an untapped market?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think there's some indie studios, obviously like Bloomhouse and A24 and Neon. They're doing some unique psychological type films, and so I think those three are still pumping out movies. They're doing fine. Like that Monkey movie came out, and let's just kill a bunch of people, and
Yeah.
it makes money. And but yeah, like the big studios, like Universal Studios. I think they're still trying to do the Universal monsters, which is cool. I don't know, man. Like, it's definitely a genre where people love, because every time an indie film comes out, and let's just call Bloomhouse and Neon and all those indie studios, although they get $5 to $10 million on budgets, they do well.
Yeah.
Like, they used to do like one a year, and now like Bloomhouse and A24 are pumping out like 5 every year in the theaters, because that's what people are interested in. Like, they're new stories, and it's not the same old. And there's just something about the psychological horror, or just horror in general, where the audience just enjoys. I'm one of those people. I enjoy horror films. It's very unique. You can do whatever you want. The storyline doesn't always have to make sense. You can pivot and go different directions. You can get super creative. And I think it's a lot different than if you're trying to tell a love story, or even a comedy, especially nowadays.
Comedy's hard.
Comedy is, I don't know how you would even make a comedy now, just because everyone gets so offended about everything.
Yep.
It's almost a dead genre, almost. Like, the funniest movies now are the cartoon ones that come out.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's afraid to push the envelope because everyone's being canceled when it comes to comedy now, man. Like, you can only really find real comedy at comedy clubs. And even that, some of them still aren't brave enough to come out and just go for it anymore, like Chris Rock and some of these Eddie Murphy type comedians used to do, Robin Williams. They didn't hold back, and now people are starting to kind of tiptoe because they don't want to get canceled.
Dave Chappelle is like the only one who doesn't care right now.
Yeah, Dave, I think, was one of the first that just kind of said, like, yeah, I don't care, and F you to the studios or HBO or whoever he was with. And of course, then he went away for a while because they tried to cancel him. But he fought his way back in, but yeah, man, it's crazy. It's crazy, but I'm happy for indie filmmakers. There's definitely a window right now. Like myself, like, I'm booking directly with theaters. We're doing 50-50 ticket splits, where 10 years ago, I don't even think that was maybe possible. At least not on the scale that I'm doing now. Like, I'm touring with the film. And I know other indie films have done that. I mentioned Hundreds of Beavers a lot. That's probably the most popular one that people have heard of that's done it. And they've done a great job, and they're still going. But think about the Terrifier guys up in New York. Matthew and Damien and Michael, and they've that first one, I think, I don't even know if it went to theaters.
No.
But they did good on streaming, and then word of mouth, and boom, second one 10 mil, third one 30 mil. And they're just like me. They just found a really good audience and a niche, and now there's a fourth one coming, and they're going to ride that sucker into the ground.
Oh, they're going to milk it for everything.
I mean, it's the next Jason or Freddy Krueger. Like, it's not going away anytime soon. But what's cool is, like, since they have that baby and it can generate them money, that gives them freedom to create other films too. So, like, I know Michael did that movie Stream. That came out, and it was in theaters for a limited release, and I went to see Stream in the theater. I always tell him, yeah, I mean, it was a Michael Levy type film. It's kind of right up there with the Terrifier, but I think with Stream, there was more of a story line to it, more of a mystery and twists and turns. I would say more so than Terrifier, in my opinion. Now, I haven't seen the second or third Terrifier. I watched the first one. But Stream, no, he was trying something new, something different, and yeah, man, I thought it was fine. It was your typical let's kill everybody type horror film, but it was kind of like Knives Out,
Love that movie.
but horror style. That's the best way I can describe it.
See, I got to check it out. Plus, I also have to get those guys on my show because I'm friends with them on Facebook, but I'm like afraid to message them. So I'm just going to message them like, "Hey, you want to come on?" So
you should.
Yeah,
like I don't know them like personally, but we've messaged before on Facebook. I've helped them advertise here in Texas when they were trying to get the second movie going, and then I asked them to advertise for me on their page, and they did. And that's about as far as it's gone between us because obviously they're super busy and they're doing their thing. But yeah, man, I think I'm really happy for those guys. Like they got probably 10 or 15 guys and they're just loving life and making movies and they took off, man. I'm super happy for them. Yeah.
Now, okay, so you're doing a theatrical release. Now, one exciting thing that I have seen, I don't know if you've seen it too, but Paramount Plus and Peacock they are accepting indie horror films. There's a lot more indie horror films that are being accepted on those platforms. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think Paramount Plus, they see an opportunity. I think where indie films used to go to Tubi and Amazon Prime Video, those are so flooded now. It's really hard to make money off of those. So Paramount Plus is just another opportunity. And it'd be interesting to see what Paramount does. I'm sure they're a lot more selective than what Tubi is. Yeah. But I know, like the Maha brothers in Vegas, they've gotten one of their films on Paramount, and which is awesome, man. That just means they're bringing on indie films. So yeah, I think it's good stuff. I don't know what type of deals they're getting. I'm not sure what the percentage is with that. Hopefully, it's a decent deal. But I think it's cool, man. I would love for like Paramount, Hulu, all those places, HBO, Netflix. They could almost have their own just indie like tab on their own special page. Because like HBO has that, right? Comedy, drama, whatever. So they could do that. And I think some of them probably already do. But if I were them, I would be very selective with it. Like I wouldn't just let every indie horror film get on there because there's already channels that do that.
Yeah.
But that's just my own 2 cents. But no, man, I'm happy for anyone that makes it onto those platforms. I just hope that they're getting paid. Yeah.
So, I mean, is that something that you're going to be looking at after the theatrical release run? Or are you going to be looking at streaming services, or are streaming services already contacting you?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I haven't had any big streaming services reach out to me. It's really just sort of the run-of-the-mill smaller ones. But for me, yeah, like I think once the theatrical is done, I would definitely reach out to some of these bigger platforms. Because once the theater's done, I feel like streaming is the last place you want your film to be at in the end. You don't want to go there first. I think right now the way to make money is going through theaters if you're an indie filmmaker. There's an indie theater here in San Antonio where they gave me 100% of the ticket sales because it doesn't really happen, but it's an independent theater. And so it's not like, Regal, this is independent. And so they can do whatever they want. And so they gave me that deal knowing they're going to bank off concessions and everything else. And so that first weekend, yeah, man, we did great. It was a great box office sale. And that weekend alone, I made more doing that than I did my first year for Eyes of a Roman on streaming. Because streaming is just so flooded and you're getting like, I don't even know what it is. A fourth of a penny, like every 4 hours or something. Like it's brutal. And so for me, I really think this is the way. Hundreds of Beavers. I think they made over $600,000 touring with their film in theaters, and that's kind of what I want to do. I just want to tour with it. It's probably gonna be a year or two. This Sherlock film is only part one. Part two's already been filmed. I'm editing it right now. So we kind of have our own little. It's not a franchise. It's not like Terrifier because there's no more films after part two. But we do have two films. So I want to build up the audience with this first movie, and then the second movie you have even a bigger release. And so the hope is that the payoff would be on part two. More so than part one.
Now, I recently had Jay Horton on, a filmmaker and crowdfunding guru, and what he's doing in his new movie is he's actually taking them not only to theaters, but he's also doing drive-ins. They're doing a drive-in, drive-through, what's called a drive-in tours. Is that something that you've looked into?
Yeah. Jason and I are friends on Facebook. We haven't really spoken, but we see each other's work. He likes my things every once in a while, and I do the same. So I know he's doing the that tour with the driving. Yeah. I haven't really looked into it, to be honest. Doesn't mean that I wouldn't do it. But I'm having success getting into movie theaters, and I always want you get the surround sound effect. Like my film's DCP'd, it's professional, it's 5.1 surround sound. So like,
nice.
That's where I want my audience to watch the movie, is in an actual theater. Drive-ins are cool, but you don't really get that effect. It's all front speakers, or maybe you get like the little tweeters on your car.
Yeah.
It's been about 30 years since I've been to one. But I know filmmakers are doing that, and I'm not against it at all. Like, I think if drive-ins want my film, awesome. It's the same thing with airlines. Airlines showing your movie, cool. It's kind of really wherever you can get your film that you think that you're going to make a little bit of money on. I'm for, man. I think one of the things I get asked a lot is like, how come you didn't do film festivals? And I'm like, well, you have to pay film festivals. Like, you're not making any money on the film festivals. You have to wait a long time to see if you even get selected. And then if you do get selected, nowadays, I mean, you don't even really get deals. It's not like the 80s and 90s where if you got in, you got a deal. Now it's like I made it, and you're standing there with all these other filmmakers. Now what? Who's going to give me money? No one's going to give you money. Unless you got, unless you got in your movie. Like if you're a bunch of no-namers, like most of us are, I just don't think that works anymore. And that's just my own opinion. But I think if you put in the work, find theaters, and go on your own tour, you have a better chance of making money and building your own audience. But it's so much work. It is a lot of work. And so some filmmakers don't want to do that, or they don't have the time, or money to do that. So it's like, well, what do I do if I don't have those things? Well, maybe you should submit to a few festivals and then just try to find a good distribution company out there, which is, again, really tough to find because I haven't found one. So,
it's hard.
Man, it's hard to find a great distribution company that is just truthful and an open book, and I don't even know if it exists. I hope it does, but it's really hard for filmmakers if you're in the indie world. So
I agree. By the way, I just want to say a quick shout out to Benji Regan. He plays Sir Arthur Conan Doyle in the Sherlock movie, for reaching out to me. He reached out to me today, and I had a cancellation, and I was like, well, I didn't even know the Sherlock movie was out. Holy shit. So and I was able to get you on last minute. I'm glad you were able to come on. And so Benji, thank you.
Yeah. Benji does an amazing job in the film. He plays Arthur Conan Doyle. So that's a huge responsibility, playing the author that created Sherlock. And I'm really happy for Benji. He did an awesome job. And like everything, like he looks like Arthur Conan Doyle, like just his face, growing out the mustache, like everything. Like he put everything into the role. I'm really happy for him. and I look forward for people to see his performance. He's a great actor, man. Like, a lot of great talent on this film.
Well, I'm definitely excited to see it. Now I have a question: where can we expect to see some screenings in the next month or two?
Yeah, so right now for the month of March, we're mainly in Texas. So we're kind of hitting Austin and Dallas and Houston and possibly Corpus and Waco, and we're kind of hitting Texas because that's my home state. But after Texas, like in April, right now we're looking at hitting Tulsa and Oklahoma, and then kind of going up the Kansas, all the way up to Chicago, and then back through like Missouri and Illinois and Indiana, and so sort of like the central U.S. strip, I guess. After that, we're still working on booking the East Coast, so we'll do like an East Coast tour.
Nice.
And then we'll also be doing a West Coast tour. So where were you located at again, Travis?
I'm in Baltimore, Maryland. So if you need a theater in Baltimore, Maryland, let me know. There is an amazing indie theater in Baltimore, and they definitely look out for indie filmmakers.
Yep. No, we'd love to go there. That's one of the areas we want to hit. And then maybe we can team up and you can come watch it and we can meet in person. That'd be cool.
I will be definitely. And by the way, it's also in the art district of Baltimore, this theater as well. So it's perfect.
Awesome. Yeah, no, we'd love to do that. So definitely let me know what that theater is. You can text me or hit me up.
Yes.
And, we'll reach out to them and add it to our list because, that's the plan. And it's going to be a very long, exhausting tour. Yes. But also a lot of fun. I'm going to meet a lot of people. You just kind of continue to build your audience. And the hope is you kind of build something up. Kind of like Michael Levy and Damien did with Terrifier movies, man. Like, I think those guys, they figured out how to do it. And so did the Hundreds of Beavers guys. Like, the cool thing is that it can be done.
Yeah.
Right. They've shown the path. You can do it. It really just comes down to how bad do you want it, and you got to make a good film. You got to have a good product. But I think it's more just the hustle.
It's 100% the hustle. Like I say it on my show all the time. I watched Damien and his crew. God knows, I don't know how many years I would go. 8-9 years ago. Every horror convention I go to throughout the country, I just kept seeing Terrifier everywhere. And they were doing screenings everywhere. And I was like, what is this Terrifier? And what is this creepy clown? Like, I mean, and they would be there doing free autographs. And I was like, well, who is this? And then finally I decided they suckered me in. And I watched Terrifier. Yeah. And like, it's just it was just an amazing strategy because they were everywhere and they wanted people to see their movie and know who their movie was.
Yep. Yeah, and it's paid off. Like, they had a long-term plan.
And they're still doing it, too. And they're still doing it. I mean, they're everywhere.
Yep. Yeah, that's just their life. It's amazing to see and watch. I think it's something a lot of filmmakers out there want. I'm one of them. I think they have paved the way, man. They know what they're doing. They got merchandise in stores now. You go into like Spencer's and you see their shirts. Like, it's really cool. Really cool.
I mean, listen, I got one right here. I mean, look, it's merchandise everywhere. They got Funko Pops and everything. I'm like, whoa. That's when I realized Terrifier was as big.
Yeah, it's amazing. And if you go on their IMDb and look up like Terrifier 3, now you see like all these distribution companies that are showing the film across the world, and they're very smart with that. Like, they don't just have one company for every territory. They got probably like 30 different distribution companies for each individual territory around the world, which is very smart. You're not putting all your eggs in one basket, right? And so like, if one company screws you over, well, that's okay. We still got 29 other ones. Because that does happen, man. Like, people need to understand, like, filmmakers do get screwed over a lot. Like, you got to be very careful. If you're listening to this and you're an indie filmmaker, make sure you have an entertainment lawyer. Look over your contracts, man, because it can be scary out there. But you can also be successful. like the Terrifier guys and the Beaver guys. Like it's really cool, and I hope to get to that level. Maybe not 30 million at the box office level, but if I can get to a couple million at the box office, that would be great. I just want to make films here in my home state, in the hill country in Texas. I don't really want to go anywhere. This is where I want to make films, and that's what I'm working towards. And it's a long road, long process.
Yes.
But again, baby steps, man. Like we're touring, we're in the theaters, so we're doing it.
Now, one last question. This is off the wall, crazy question. So I've been all throughout Texas. I've been to Austin. I've been to Killeen. I've been to Dallas. I've been to Plato. Is it Plato? No. It's where Plano. They have the National Video Game Museum there. But I've seen all of the Texas sports teams play live, and I'm a huge sports fan as well. One thing, listen, Texas is known for one big thing, and that's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like after the first two, no one has been able to get that series right on the right page. As a Texan, is that something that, down the road, if you were offered that franchise, would you jump on it?
Yeah, I think so. I think you could do a lot, I think, with that story, especially the backstory. Like, obviously, if you're a horror fan, you've seen the original, where they just kind of show up and stuff starts happening. But it's like, how do these guys get to that place? Like, how do they become these monsters and start killing people? And there's a lot there you could work with, especially if you're doing a franchise. If you're doing like a trilogy or something, you could really do some really good stuff with that, I think. So yeah, man, I think if someone's like, hey, you interested in Leatherface and you want to jump in here and,
make film in Texas. Yeah.
Make a trilogy, film it in Texas, the original location, which is like maybe 2 or 3 hours from me. And
yeah, I went there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I think I would. I think it obviously would depend on the deal, but I'm a horror fan too. I like more like the Conjuring type horror myself. Texas Chainsaw is a little bit different. But I like challenges. And so like if I knew this was a challenge and it's like, okay, well, the fans are hungry and they haven't liked much of the remakes. Can you be the one to bring it back to life and resurrect it and give them something they've never seen before where it just blows their mind? And then all of a sudden, here we go. Leatherface is back and everyone's just like, this is amazing. And it was made by a Texas filmmaker. And there you go. So yeah, I think I'd be up for the challenge. And I think we could make a really good trilogy. I think I would want a trilogy. Yeah, I think there's so much there that's unknown that you could tap into. I could make frame by frame the original if that's what people wanted. I could. I just don't think that's what people want anymore because it's like now you just made the exact same movie. I would just go watch the original. So you gotta give them something they haven't seen, kind of like the Terrifier guys did. They are cutting women in half and getting pretty crazy. So you would have to take it to the extreme, and that would be research. And so like, all right, well, let me watch the Terrifier movies. Let me watch some of these other films and see what they've done. And then you have
extreme horror.
You got to go times 10 because this is kind of like the OG. Like he needs to be the one that is ripping people in half and wearing their faces and it just has to be nuts.
Yeah. And
I think if you did that, the fans would come back and really love that franchise.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I agree. It's been remade so many times at this point. I think it's up to like 4. And it's telling the same story over and over again. And like, but with, modernized versions of it. The original story is great, but I want to see something different in the world of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I want to see something. And that's why I actually like part 2. Most people don't like part 2. But I actually like part 2 because it was something completely different than the original. It was offbeat, it was crazy, it was kooky, and it introduced a whole bunch of new, different, wacky characters. I actually enjoyed part 2, so I would want something like that where, yeah, you're staying in a Texas Chainsaw world, but do something different. Do something batshit crazy.
Yeah. 100%. Like, I always, like, if you get a chance to see the Sherlock film, there is some batshit crazy in the movie, but you're still connecting the dots.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. I guess that's one of my strengths as the filmmaker. I would still tell the story where you're going from point A to point Z through this trilogy, and there's a lot of crazy stuff happening, but it still makes sense why they are who they are and why these people are dying, like stuff like that. Like, I wouldn't just make some crazy movie and kill people. I would actually have like a story of why. Like, why is this happening? Why are these people like this? And dive into their backstory a little bit more. And that to me is fun. So, like, for the Sherlock film, I gave Lestrade a backstory. You don't know where Lestrade came from. Well, we see him at the age of 10 in my movie. You know, so that's what I mean. Like, I would really go that far with it. And that would be fun, because then you could really build upon something. Like, and I've only seen the original, you know, so I don't know what else has come out, to be honest. But if Leatherface is 40 years old in the original, well, what was he like when he was 8? You know?
Because the last one had Leatherface at 70 years old. Like, it was a Netflix one. It had him at 70, which I thought was an interesting idea. Like, what does a fucking 70-year-old Leatherface? What is he doing?
Yeah.
But 70-year-old Leatherface was doing the same thing as 40-year-old Leatherface, and I'm like, well, that's not. Come on, like, I want to see. There's no way hell a 70-year-old is doing the same thing as a 40-year-old. I don't care how good in shape you are or anything. Like, I wanted to see Leatherface maybe use his brain a little more to capture people and kill them than running after them at full speed, jumping over things.
100%. Yeah, that's kind of where I was kind of thinking about it too. It's like, again, I've only seen the original, so like, does he ever talk much or anything like that? And it's like, well, what brought him down this path? I mean, he could have been like a professor for all we know, you know, but something just happened. You know, something.
Please don't do that, CJ. You know? Please don't do him as a professor.
You kind of see him turn into, you know, like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type stuff. You know what I mean? So there you go. I just want to piss people off. You know? All right, you can't make this now, CJ. So,
yeah, you can. It's not.
No.
All right, buddy. Where can everyone find you, my friend?
Yeah. So, I mean, you can follow me on, you know, Facebook or Instagram, or the main ones. The Sherlock Holmes, Mayor of the Night. We have our own website. So if you go on the website, you can see where we're going, like to the cities and the towns and where the theaters are at for our tour. And then you know, I have a YouTube page as well, although it's not very big, but I do have some things on there. But that's really the main places you can find us. But yeah, man, check out our website. You can see where we're going. Maybe we'll be in your city, and you'll know the theater we're going to. And we love to see people come out and check out the movie.
And it will be in the Maryland, D.C., Virginia, Pennsylvania area. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to work with CJ to make sure to bring that to the DMV, Pennsylvania area. CJ, it's always been a blast having you on, man.
Yeah, Travis. No, I appreciate you having me on, man. It was a lot of fun.
Too, man. I'm looking forward, man. I'm looking forward to see your movie, and I'm looking forward to see you in Baltimore or in Pennsylvania or somewhere nearby.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Sure. I'm going to get up there.
We're going to do it, man. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for coming to the Horror Realm. I'm Travis Bruce, and that is CJ Goodwyn. We'll see you next time. Take care.